Hello, everyone. My name is Trups LP. I hope I nailed that sound, or else this is going to be a little bit of an intro. Welcome to another episode of our political recap. I am joined, as always, with our lovely, moist, Omegon. Say hello, Omegon.
Hello, Omegon.
Yes, hello, Omegon. How are we doing today, Omegon?
We are, we're okay. Busy,
That's
but
good.
not as productive as I would have. Oh, hang on. Thank you, you know who, for the £4. Good luck hitting the go live button, Omegon. Smash like. I certainly did do a fantastic job hitting the go live button. Thank you for breaking the fourth wall a little bit.
Yes, and thank you ahead of time, Spooky Jones, for the $25 super chat before the stream began. Meg told me I had to make sure to mention that.
Yes,
so I'm
and thank
doing my
you,
job.
you know who, for donating $5. Happy Friday, smash like.
Oh, yes, thank you. I know you know who.
Yay.
Yes.
I wasn't as
So
productive
we
as I
could-
wanted, by the way. I wasn't as productive,
Oh, yeah.
but it's fine. How is Trups LP?
Trump's LP is getting ready to go travel for work. Part of my life. But it's gotta go. It's gotta do.
Will that impact our show next week, or is it going to be okay?
It might, but I'm going to try and make sure that I have,
Well,
at least a internet connection to do the
we
show
could.
next week.
I mean, if worst comes to worst, we could always just reschedule to a Saturday.
True. Basically, all I need to find out is, how good our, conversation connection is. So I may pop into a Discord chat with you sometime during the week to make sure we're good.
That's absolutely fine. I'm happy to do that.
Other than that, though, there's not been a whole lot going on for me. My moving situation has basically been completed, finally.
Congratulations.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Hopefully that means that I don't have to, spend my weekends, doing things that I don't really want to do. So that's where my brain's at right now. But we have a loaded docket of things this week, don't we?
We have quite a few things, yes.
I honestly, I have no idea where we could even start.
I've got this, fam. Don't worry.
Okay.
I've got you. So,
Me.
fallout from the UK random elections all over the place. You have the council in the England elections. We had a by-election in Hartlepool. Scotland and Wales had their own little precious elections. The DUP's leader left. They've got a new one now. Well, Keir Starmer, being the man that he is, took responsibility and blamed the deputy leader because the way their party runs, she actually runs election campaigns, which she no longer does because, understandably, after that kind of defeat, he can't get rid of her because of how she's elected by the party members, not by him. Weird system, I know. But because of that, he has blamed her, taken away something, but also people have spoken out. They believe there is a solution to this. You have the likes of Diane Abbott, who I'm sure everyone remembers. Yes, that.
I'd rather if I didn't.
Yes. And Jeremy Corbyn, in fact, who has criticised Keir Starmer for the policies he's put forward. John McDonnell, sorry. Not Jeremy McDonnell, I think it's an actor. John McDonnell has done the same thing. He has also indicated that the party's message doesn't resonate with the working class, who themselves now feel more centrist and are leaning the Conservatives because they're doing stuff to try and get jobs going. Diane Abbott has demanded, like Jeremy Corbyn, that what Labour should do, and this, they have demanded that Labour return to a certain type of policies, more akin to that of Corbynite policies. That sounds like apologies, doesn't it? Policies. I fumbled. My apologies. My apologies. In the sense that she wants the party to go back to its hard left, more socialist policies, even though, and this is, this is interesting. In 2019, Labour with that very manifesto and their indecisive position on Brexit, which I think was the main reason they lost in 2019, Labour suffered its worst general election defeat since 1935 then. In 1935, they were trying to be a legitimate party. It wasn't until after World War II, when essentially Churchill had served his purpose, which is what he was elected to do, that people got rid of him in favour of a more, I would say, socialist party, but they weren't really. They were just helping to get the country's morale back up, and spending seemed to be the way forward. Which is exactly why Churchill was re-elected into office a few years later. Yeah, I remember my history. Quite impressive, really. But yes, no, Diane Abbott believes that that the way to go forward is to go to Jeremy Corbyn's policies, because they were actually quite popular. And to be honest, his policies were popular with the youth especially. But the problem was, his core voters are white-collar workers, whose main thing wasn't about social inequalities. It wasn't about the relative poverty. It wasn't about any of that. It was about making sure people could go to work, their rent wasn't extorted, they could afford to buy food, they could afford to watch TV or Netflix these days. And so she believes that, and Angela Rayner, interestingly, the deputy leader of Labour, she herself, under Corbyn's shadow government, cabinet, or whatever you want to call it, she was in that as well. She is like a last remnant of Corbyn's time. Keir Starmer can't get rid of her. Many people have criticised Angela Rayner for not looking very stately. She sort of adopted Jeremy Corbyn's approach of looking like an old man at an allotment, as a reason why she herself also doesn't resonate with the voters. Keir Starmer is more because he hasn't really set out a vision for his party. And you could attribute this, and I'll agree with Diane Abbott on this, you can attribute this to the restricted opportunities. Because of coronavirus, and Brexit's over. It's over, it's done. But coronavirus took over straight away, and it's become a point where many of us would rather talk about Brexit instead of that. Understandably so, I might add. And so we've gotten to the stage where he can't give us anything because, well, I discussed this evening on Twitch, actually, because it was pointed out that even though the government is currently absolutely smashing it with regards to coronavirus, in our country especially, there is worry, obviously, that June 21st, when it happens, the issues might be pushed back a little further because of a variant strain from India has affected some places in the north, but it is firmly believed that whichever, I'll air quote this word, please help me, vaccine, and air quotes, one of them can adapt or is being adapted to deal with it. But because of coronavirus, he can't tackle other policies. So all he's got is chasing the coattail of Boris, who is now smashing it. Originally, Keir Starmer was ruining him in PMQs because a lot of what he was doing then didn't look like it could work, and it worked. You've got to get... Boris could well be untouchable. It is believed, because of the Labour Party at the moment, Boris could well be in office for longer than Margaret Thatcher. She was in office for 11 years. People think that Boris may well overtake that, which he will if Keir Starmer loses to him at the next general election in 2024. If he loses, Boris will be at least 12 years in, which is very impressive for a guy who isn't meant to lead, to be honest. And this sounds strange, but Boris is that guy who makes everyone laugh. The idea of the guy making you laugh all the time being the guy that leads makes you think the guy that leads is a clown, which he is.
But I will warn you that we had one of those.
You did? Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. But the point still stands. And so you've got Labour at the moment, some of them, demanding that they change policy. Angela Rayner, rather interestingly, has actually slammed the Labour Party because Labour have been... And she's actually, I'll give her some credit here. Yes, it's hindsight, but she has at least conceded Labour are not resonating with the working class. And that's because instead of talking to them, they are talking down to them to make it seem like they don't understand what it is they are doing. And that's not right. For a party that's supposed to be about the workers, the last thing you want to be caught doing is being condescending towards your voters. And don't even get me started on the Sadiq Khan shit, saying he wants to heal people, so the first thing he does is hire an art project done in MS Paint for Tube Station. No.
I was going to say something Democrat.
If those are Labour voters, right, that are drawing that kind of art, I'm starting to see why Labour talk down to the voters. I'm joking. Take a joke. If you can't smash the dislike, I don't care. It's just a joke. But yeah, she also her allies believe actually that Angela Rayner herself could actually beat Keir Starmer in a leadership battle. If she doubled up with someone like Lisa Nandy, who actually, Lisa Nandy, I still maintain, would be a fantastic leader for the Labour Party. She's got great interpersonal skills. She doesn't obsess over one issue. She's very popular. I don't know why she was so bad in leadership campaigns. I don't get it. It's possible because she doesn't quite push the hard left stuff, which don't. So the union, for example, that backs Jeremy Corbyn, right, called Unite. Len McCluskey, I think he's on his way out. The guy who's supposed to be taking his place is already in the middle of a was it racism storm of some kind? He's been done for spicy tweets, I believe. Nice.
Oh boy.
Yes. But yeah. So let's see. Angela Rayner herself has been trying to resist the attempts by Keir Starmer to demote her. So she instead has moved to what she's dubbed an improved position. No idea what the improved position is. Thank you, the like button for £3. Give me smashes. Please smash the like button if you're on YouTube. If you're one of the 132 people on Spotify, I guess all I can ask is that you continue to follow us over there. We'd greatly appreciate all the support you provide us by listening.
Thank you, Spotify people.
Yes, thank you. In your country, what is the party that's supposed to represent the white-collar workers?
The white-collar workers? Yeah. Allegedly, that's the Republicans.
Do they?
Okay, so it's complicated because it depends on which side that you're looking at. If you were to ask Republicans who the party of the rich were, or, you know what, I'm not even going to say that. If you say the party of the middle class, Republicans would say themselves.
Yeah.
If you were to ask the Democrats who's the party of the working class, they would say themselves. Now, this, of course, is a little bit complicated because it's not just white collar, it is also blue collar.
Yes.
However, when it comes down to it, you have to take it a step further. It's who is backed by banks, who is banked by brokerages, who is banked by multinationals.
Yes.
And the answer to that question is Democrats, by and large.
So the reason I asked you is because in our country, there's always a consistent belief the Conservatives never represent the workers, the white-collar workers. It's always the Labour Party because of what they originally stood for and what they've always stood for. Public services and for individual rights and freedoms, where the Conservatives are more privatisation, free industrial capitalists, that kind of thing.
Correct.
But generally speaking, at this point, the answer is who represents the workers to the question. The answer is no one in our country. And the answer, I would argue, even though I've been told by others, it depends on the state as well. Because of, well, I guess you've got a national thing, more federal, but at state level, there have been conflicting, like, some Democrats do support workers, and then it depends on, like, what kind of state it is, I guess, if that makes sense, culturally.
Yeah, true.
But because obviously we're a much smaller country, the answer is no party represents the workers. And if there is a party that represents the workers, they're neither of the two main parties in our country. You can't include the SNP because they're too busy thinking about their own arseholes. You can't think of the Green Party because they've got one MP for Brighton, and they're only interested in emptying the bins in a more environmentally friendly way. You can't include UKIP because they've got no one. You can't include Lord Binface because he's not elected. There are no other parties, realistically, with MPs that actually stand much in the way of a chance of standing up for those who are workers. So with Labour now, it's not even it's not even 2 years really, is it? Because it was the end of 2019 he got elected in, Boris. It's maybe a year and a half, 18 months, and Labour hit their peak early on in coronavirus, but now they've gone through a downward spiral, and they need to find their way back up quickly. They need to find their way back up, and no Jess Phillips for leader of Labour, because she does not understand Labour at all. And thank you to Alicia Shepherd for becoming a member of the channel, greatly appreciated. And thank you the like button for $5. Support my party by smashing, the Smashing Party. Very kind of you. Didn't some Labour want Priti Patel deported? Patriarch of the Sith? Yes, it was trending on Twitter. Send her back to India, I believe was the term. But the fun fact here is, no, I mean she grew up being called a different slur, not Indian. I can't say the slur, by the way, because I'd get into trouble for it. But I find it quite fascinating. People want to get rid of her. She's obviously, yes, her family are from India, but she was called the ones from Pakistan instead, because people are really, really fucking stupid. And all because of...
No, never.
Yeah, it is quite a complicated thing, I will admit, what's been going on with Priti Patel, but a lot of it does involve a fair amount of rather odd racism, trying to be passed off as tit for tat. It's strange, I'll give them that. But that is, for the most part, what's been going on in the UK. I do have one other thing, Europe-based, but we'll get to that in a bit. So, your turn. What do you want to talk about, Trups?
Okay. Well, I kind of want to let's bring up things like kind of slowly. So let's quickly talk about the well, okay, this requires a bit of a intro. So we are about 140 something days into the Biden presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And things aren't looking so hot.
Sure?
For the 46th. Oh, I'm pretty sure.
No,
for the
Media Trust
46th president.
Media's doing a great job. They're making him look like a saint. If he dies in office, he's a martyr.
Yeah, that's a way to put it. Yeah. Unfortunately, the people who are living in reality have a bit of a different consideration. Let's see here. We have things like gas prices that are going through the roof, and we have a pipeline that was compromised by, I'm not going to say Russian hackers, but hackers in Russia.
So what Biden said, it wasn't the Russian government, but it was people in Russia. That's what he's... Yeah.
Correct.
And so I had DMs on Twitter sent to me about this pipeline issue, because is that a fuel line?
Yeah.
So people have been... The one I got DMs about were people going to gas stations and filling up every jerry can they had. And I get it. I really do, because of the circumstances. That's really bad. Because wasn't that being built and then it stopped?
No. You see, that was the... that was a different pipeline. That was the... Keystone Pipeline.
Right, thank you.
And that was a thing with Canada. No, see, the Colonial Pipeline is a pipeline that goes from Texas to much of the east coast of the United States.
Right. Well, this is not good anyway, is it?
No. It's one of the largest pipelines, actually, in the United States, and it's actually very crucial that thing, works.
Right.
Unlike our labor population, which that's another piece of the Biden presidency that's going down the shitter.
F.
Yes, big F. The biggest. So we have a bit of an interesting, I don't even want to say situation, condition. It's a hard thing to kind of explain, but so they had compromised this pipeline. The pipeline went down. No one said much about it. But we knew that it had happened, and it was a ransomware attack. Are you familiar with a
No.
ransomware attack?
No, I've never heard of a
Okay.
ransomware attack. Please tell me what that is.
Ransomware is a type of malware, a type of virus on your computer. And what this does is essentially it will encrypt your hard drive or otherwise make it inaccessible by the owner.
Okay.
And what it will do then is the owner operator of the virus will then say, okay, look, I will unencrypt your thing. You can have your stuff back if you pay me. News came out after the pipeline had first shut down and news started circulating about it and said, we will not be negotiating with terrorists. Great. Glad to hear it.
Of course.
Awesome.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so that was a lie. Because they had paid them within the day, actually. The ransom was paid within the day that it had happened.
Oh dear.
And it was a $5 million ransom. It's a lot.
No.
And yeah, so basically the rest of that time was taken to beef up security, I suppose, to make sure that it didn't happen immediately all over again. If I had to guess what was going on.
Okay.
And we are here now, way after the fact, still, unfortunately, suffering the results of this hack. So what that basically entails is that we have most of the Southeast hard to find gas. I believe it was North Carolina who first had the biggest issue, and in which case they were, I think it was 73% of gas stations were reporting an outage as of Wednesday, I believe.
Really?
Which is absolutely insane.
That explains the picture of jerry cans then.
Yes. Okay. So the pictures that you saw on social media were their own interesting, excitement because
it's a different kind of panic buying. I'll give you that. Especially when people turn. It's the thing with the jerry can. Yeah, it is. The panic buying was one thing, but it's when people turn up with the smallest jerry cans known to exist. And I'm sat there like, you couldn't be asked to buy a bigger one or get a bigger one. You could fit so much more in your truck.
They're not even jerry cans. Sometimes
no, they're not.
They're literally just Tupperwares.
Yeah, they are. And I saw one. I saw a picture. It wasn't Tupperware, but it was very similar.
It was a Rubbermaid fucking.
No, it was milk. It was plastic milk containers. That's what,
oh no.
And like
at least it's the same-ish.
I was
it's not the same.
I was hoping someone turned up with like a massive bong or something and just filled it up with that. I was so hoping for it.
There was one picture of a guy in the back of his pickup truck put a like the 1,000-gallon non-potable water like containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he filled that one with gas. Excuse me. And somebody had actually done it with a Hummer, ironically, right? And then proceeded to light it on fire by accident.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Right now, you're seeing the best of us.
Dresden. Yes, I saw one with a plastic bag because the bag broke. Or I saw one with a plastic bag because I don't.
There are many with plastic bags.
People don't seem to understand basic chemistry here.
No, in fact, right now everyone is doing an experimental investigation into how to make napalm.
I'll be honest. They're also doing a rather nice little experiment into what most of us like to charitably dub natural selection.
Oh, of course, absolutely. The Darwin Award is won by all at this point.
Honestly, it is. It was quite something. we have random nonsense in our chat. I'm alright with that.
I love it.
It's a shame.
Probably. Well, I'm not gonna say anything outright right now,
Yeah,
but
leave
I
it till
might
later.
have
Leave
to
it till
bring them
later.
back to the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got the best of us right now, running around with gasoline. Now it's actually ironically fine for me because I'm traveling for work, so I'm not worried about my gas tank because I'll be gone for like a month. Green Sun, would it be illegal to resell the gas if someone bought a lot? Probably, maybe, not sure. Um, doesn't matter. They're gonna try it anyway. Um,
I'm surprised people
just
haven't
like with
started
toilet
like
paper.
looting boats because they use pink diesel in the UK, or any other vehicle they can stick a tube in and suck it out.
Oh,
Siphon.
actually, some of the people in my Facebook that on my Facebook timeline said, I guess I gotta carry around a siphon again, like I did in the old days. And I was like, oh, that's probably bad. Don't do that.
Classy.
Um, Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. But at the same time, hey, you got to do what you got to do. There was one picture I saw where somebody had stolen um a freaking bike and then attached a note to it. Said, "Hey, gas crisis. By the way, your bike's amazing. I brought it back though."
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I basically paraphrased it. The guy basically explained like, "Hey, I needed this to get to work, and yeah. By the way, best bike ever. 10 out of 10. Would steal again. That part actually was there.
Or was it?
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Would steal it again.
Fantastic.
So yeah, the gas thing is a aspect, but I probably would consider this probably the most at home felt issue from this presidency, but not nearly the most severe or most important. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
No, I get you.
So I would say if we wanted to move a step up from that, it would be the labor situation. Now, not labor with a UR, but labor as in an OR. Um,
The workforce.
yes, our workforce. So during the pandemic, we had enhanced unemployment benefits for good reason, as people were forced out of their jobs. We had certain moratoriums on evictions, though that is a complicated subject in and of itself. And some places are saying y'all didn't have the authority to do that, but that's a court case that's ongoing, so there's nothing really to talk about there. Because I'm not a lawyer. But we're trying to return to normal now. Businesses are opening back up,
Same
even
as
at
UK.
50%. We are doing our best to try and get something, going for us.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
that would do good for example, Biden's presidency because of what's being ignored.
Oh, absolutely. It would be crucial for Biden's presidency, especially to bring about some actual revitalization to our crippling market at the moment.
Same in the UK. It's why,
Yeah.
like, I finally start my work next week, my IRL work away from this, after
Unfortunately,
so much time.
yeah, well, I'm glad that you're starting to be able to work again. Unfortunately, for the people in the U.S., is that they're finding that collecting unemployment is actually more cost effective than working. Even if it is only pieces, or let's say it's 50 cents on the dollar to not work, but it's enough to scrape by, they're gonna do that. There are some instances where it's just straight up better than their previous work was paying them, so they see no need to go back to work.
Oh, really?
Okay, I can't exactly fault them for that, but I can fault the government for not taking steps to more, I guess, to hone down these things on unemployment, because as far as I was aware, unemployment was something that you could get if you were fired from your job and that you were unable to get to another job. So basically, not necessarily disability, but okay, I'm searching for a job, but I haven't I haven't gotten a call back, so I still need to be on unemployment. I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
However, I didn't think that unemployment counted if you were just actively choosing not to work. Apparently it does. Uh, so
Hmm.
what we have right now is a lot of these businesses which are trying to get back into the swing of things, trying to get back to work, trying to make their money again. But people are not wanting to do it. People don't want to work, and yeah, we have a bit of an issue with that because in combination with a similar I don't want to say movement, but a similar sentiment that was echoed earlier on in the year about the $15 minimum wage. Um, the individuals right now are basically saying things like, well, if your job was, not paying you what you were worth, then you shouldn't have to go back to work or something along those lines. There was a post that I had actually sent to Meg, and it basically said, "People who are mad." Actually, you know what? Let me pull up the actual post because I want to read this out because it makes a very good point. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it said, "You're not mad that someone else might soon make $15 an hour. You're mad because you should be making $25 or $35, and you should be mad. Refocus. Your enemy isn't the poor fella who's finally getting a few more crumbs. Your enemy is the billionaire who's been robbing you of a fair living wage all these years." Um, so I had seen that, and my first thought was to send it to Meg and ask him, does this sound like an excuse to pass inflation? So,
I think I said it does look like it.
which,
Did I say it doesn't? Doesn't it looks like it, doesn't it?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah, you straight up said, yeah, that's an excuse.
It felt like it. To be fair, I saw that on my phone, and my
Well,
response was just like, "Yeah, no. What am I looking at?" Okay, give me a sec. Yeah, no,
no,
fuck it.
I
It is
I
that.
fully believe it to be an excuse, and the reason I say that is simply because the inflation situation that is currently going on, after having so much money pumped into the American economy
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't have in the first place, we printed money, we borrowed it from ourselves. Now it's basically coming back to bite us. We have a situation in which our our economy is starting to feel the ramifications of it. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
you have the how do I describe this? You have the stock market which is currently crashing, right? And you have things like cryptocurrencies that are going up in value,
They are.
minorly changing at the moment right now because of, well, complications with Elon Musk.
Yeah, he didn't help it, did he?
No, he did not. But basically, what you have going on is a mass exodus from the American dollar or from the American stock exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going into either personal assets or it's going to go into something completely different. I don't know necessarily where they're putting their money. It might be going into real estate because out of the only things that I would say are actually consistent at all junctures of life is real estate. Because you always want more buildings. And if that market does crash and you do buy a thing, well, then guess what? You've got a whole bunch of stuff to then sell to people when the market fixes itself. A great investment in the long term. So they need the capital from their investments to actually do something about it now. This is more or less a thought process, not necessarily something that I know for certain. Um, that being said, though, what I do know for certain is that our markets are fucking killing themselves. They are absolutely just falling by the wayside every single day. I just keep watching it tank more and more. And if you were going to tell me that employers should be paying people more money. What you're not telling me is that the more money that I'm being paid by said employer is actually not going to give me any more buying power. If the worth of the American dollar is going down currently, and you're telling me that instead of, let's say, $15 an hour, I should be making $25 or $35 an hour, that means that what you are telling me is I need more bills, more numbers,
Yeah.
but you aren't saying that I can buy more things. Right? You're not telling me that my work is worth more. You are telling me that I deserve more numbers. Well, numbers is where is how we got into this situation to begin with. So I'm a little hesitant to follow through with that kind of line of thinking. So where does that leave us? Well, we've got we've got an entire mass of people right now that are basically holding our labor force at gunpoint, figuratively speaking, to make them pay a higher wage, or else they're not going to go back to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well then.
Right. So some people are kind of just like, I don't know how to handle this. And I don't actually blame them, because out of everything, it is indeed a complicated situation. But that's our labor force at the moment. Basically, a bunch of entitled shitheads holding our jobs and our economy hostage.
Sounds about right.
Really, the only safe currency is food and weed. Food, I definitely agree. Weed, I guess.
I'm not really interested in weed. Food, yes, sure.
Sure.
Keep weed away from me.
Yeah, so that's two of the issues that are currently going on in Biden's presidency. There was another issue that was going on in Biden's presidency that I'm just going to touch on so that I can get to the topic that I need to get to, because it might take some time. We also have a migrant crisis going on down there.
The one that's being ignored by the entire Biden administration.
Yes, indeed. In fact, I believe our vice president was supposed to go and see that that southern border, and I don't think she's been there yet. So that's great. And the other thing is that we still have a pandemic that we're still dealing with. Though, in light of all these issues that are going on in Biden's presidency, happy day for Americans. The CDC basically said, in certain circumstances, that we are allowed to unmask.
Huh. Okay.
If we are fully vaccinated, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, happy day," and then you look at how it's being like shown to us by individuals, and you kind of are confused more. Shocker. Because you have the CDC that says under certain circumstances, fully vaccinated people may take off their masks in indoor settings.
Yeah.
And then you have our illustrious president saying that actually you can just go and take off your mask if you're fully vaccinated, and period. I'm like,
Do you see the response to people saying, "No, it's irresponsible when there are others who still have it," or "No, I like my mask," or "What about those who haven't had the vaccine? I should keep my mask on." You sound like you have Stockholm syndrome.
it is. It is actually. It is actually like that.
No offense to those who maybe do it because they feel like it's the right thing to do. Generally speaking, it's really not at this point. Stop it. Thank you. This has been my TED Talk.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I'm happy about it because it looks like they needed to basically they needed to give the American people something.
Okay.
And that now the criticism is that some states have been doing it already, so it seems like, hey, you guys are kind of late to the party.
Mm-hmm.
Nice of you to finally join us.
Yeah.
Which I kind of get, actually.
Yeah. Before we get to the subject you really want to get to, can I touch on something else?
Yeah.
So, when you think of the EU, what do you think its main policies and beliefs are? What repelled the United Kingdom, for example?
Oh, do you really want me to say what I think about the EU?
No. Tell me what you think the EU is meant to stand for.
Right, are you sure about that? Okay, fine.
That the UK voted against in 2016.
I would say at the very least, ownership of our own rights as a sovereign country. If I were to
That's one.
go with that.
There's one other really big policy that really annoyed Britons that people called, let's say, xenophobic.
Oh, was it your migrant policy?
Yes.
The EU had compelled individual countries to take in refugees.
Oh, we'll get to that. That's actually you're right on the nose. Give me a moment, though. Okay, Native, thank you for the $2 donation. What if I want to rob a liquor store? No maskers? That is a decision up to you. I will not encourage nor endorse what you are suggesting as a what-if, because we don't deal in what-ifs here. So, the EU is renowned for its, for example, the Schengen region, where it's freedom of movement. It's renowned for suggesting countries open its borders. Now, there are a couple, Hungary more notably, that have said, fuck you, and built a massive, fence around its country and said, you're not sending people to our country. No. First of all, they're not refugees. They're economic migrants. Please don't try us with this. And they were right, because many have been sent back. I can't imagine. Or Turkey even threatened to, I believe, just let them go straight through because they wanted things, and people were like, no, Erdogan, you can suck my noodly appendage. That was Merkel to him. So, the EU's chief negotiator was Michel Barnier, who is on the naughty step, as you see on the screen, where Trump's hand is. He was the negotiator. We negotiated a deal. It was a trash deal, but I'll be honest, it was better than Theresa May's. He has rather interestingly said something that really, really sparks my interest. I'm going to read it for you. First of all, he considers the EU's external frontier as a sieve, saying, I think we have to take time, for 3 or 5 years, to suspend immigration. Which is a remarkable thing for the EU, or someone from the EU, to say. But this should exclude refugees and students, of course, because the bloc's external border needs to be more rigorous, and that there were links between immigration and terrorist networks that infiltrate migrational flows. Continuing by saying,
"No way! Oh my god,
that feels like a no. I know. I couldn't believe. I don't.
Who the fuck came up with that?
Right.
Sounds like
Continuing by saying, the problems of immigration are not moderate. I know, as a politician that I am, to see the problems how they are and how French people experience them, and to find solutions. The reason people think he might be saying this isn't because he's disagreeing with the EU's position, but because he might actually consider becoming the candidate for the centre-right party in France at the elections, who are called, you'll like this, the Republicans.
Oh no. So, did somebody tell him about the optics of that?
Yeah. What I found fascinating about it is, if they had said this 5 years ago or 6 years ago, before Brexit was even suggested, I can promise you this. The UK wouldn't have voted to leave if they knew the EU was going to actually do something about their borders. But then, as Barnier himself has mentioned, refugees and students. Students, I kind of get, actually. I take no issue with that, because, no, you're students. You go there, you study, you party, you go home. Fine. But the refugee one's a strange one, because a lot of refugees have been found out not to be refugees. They're migrants, economic migrants who've just gone there to, leech, as most do. But it's very fascinating to me for someone who's been a beacon of EU rights, freedoms, and none of those, to stand up and say something that actually only resonates with voters in France, because France is actually leaning more towards Marine Le Pen than it is Emmanuel Macron. Because his ideas are bullshit, and how he's handled the economy is bullshit for an economist. It's very ironic. Was it sociologist? No, economist. Economist? Yes,
Economist.
that. Thank you. Very amusing. Whereas Marine Le Pen is considered a far-right racist. Anyway, I'm done with that. It's just amusing to me. By all means, talk about Israel and Palestine now.
Yeah, okay. So the topic that I've been trying to get to is the conflict between Israel and Palestine. I'm going to get blame from some of you fuckers in the chat. And I don't really care. I'm waiting for that one moment. What's up?
No, I'm just going to quickly go and get a drink of water. Carry on.
Oh, okay. So in the meantime, I'm going to go off on a tangent. Okay. So, for those who are unaware, there is rising tensions in the Middle East, contentions over the space between Gaza and Israel. In the last couple of weeks, actually, there have been ongoing conflicts and clashes between Palestinians and Israel. The furthest back I could find was a clash that was reported on in April 23rd, which was, if I'm going by CNN intentionally. It says clashes between Palestinians from East Jerusalem and Israeli police around Damascus Gate entrance to the Old City erupted in a night of unrest that earlier saw Jewish extremists marching through another city street shouting, I'm not going to say that, but it's basically you know that thing that Iran chants blank to America? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that, but to those from the Middle East who aren't Jewish.
Can I interject with something? So I, before we started streaming, said something to you. Also said in the chat earlier by Chaos on YouTube. And it was the thing where it seemed oddly coincidental to me, because I hadn't heard anything about any of this, because obviously I was busy with brother duties. But I hadn't heard of any escalating tensions, because all I'd heard about prior to him leaving office was progress being made in that region when Trump was in office. And then and then it seemed oddly coincidental that when the Democrats come into office, suddenly the tensions are back on the table and the peace process, or the peace that was being attained, is gone, which seemed really strange to me. I will accept it's possible I'm missing something, or I didn't, or perhaps the peace wasn't as good as as I was led to believe by the one or two outlets that actually bothered reporting on it, because they hated Trump.
The peace agreements weren't between Palestine and Israel.
That's true.
They were between, I believe it was the UAE.
Yes.
I think.
But those countries could then, and were apparently leaning on Palestine to calm down a bit. Now, there has always been fighting there, and I'm very much aware of it. But to lean on them and just be like, calm down a bit. That's what I was led to believe.
I think you're right, but the problem is that you have a difference in kinds of leadership, right? So the people in Gaza who are fighting against Israel aren't just citizens, right?
Yes.
They are part of a Islamic Jihad group that is launching rockets into Israel. Unfortunately, the price of war is almost always paid by civilians. I mean, World War II was a great example of being that, the bombing of London didn't just kill soldiers.
No, there's always innocent lives that are lost in all of this.
Exactly. So the problem with these escalating tensions is a combination of both the issues that come from Gaza attacking and also Israel retaliating. So whereas I mentioned that there were conflicts as of April 23rd, those conflicts actually included the Palestinians knocking down a security telephone pole, a pole that had a camera on it that created a barricade, threw rocks and bottles at the Israeli Defense Force, and the Israeli Defense Force responded by lobbing stun grenades and dispersing the crowd. A little bit more heavy-handed than what you got during Black Lives Matter protests.
You mean like the thing in Oregon where a few stun grenades were thrown and they were told, don't do that?
Yeah, it's bad. Even though the behaviors were very similar.
Yeah.
Just one country has a bit more, a bit less tolerance, I guess, for the diversity of tactics. But that has since escalated considerably. With ever since then, there have been ongoing rocket attacks from Gaza and Israeli defense retaliation, and this includes airstrikes. At one point, Israel had even leveled a 13-story building that was being used as a command post for the Islamic Jihad. That's a way. That's a way to do it. I don't necessarily disagree with the idea, but I do disagree with the flagrant ignoring of the risk of human lives. I believe the term was all fair is in love and war, though. I think once the shooting started, time to pack it up, boys. It's time to leave. I mean, I'm in an area of the country that leaves weather, let alone rocket attacks. We might just fucking dip, dude. We might head out of here if there's ongoing rocket strikes from my city. I might go stay with a friend for a while.
Understandably.
But apparently, I may be a bit alone in that thought, unfortunately. Because the follow-up to that is that there are many more Palestinian casualties than there are Israeli casualties. There is a big reason for that. It's because of the Israeli missile defense system, the Iron Dome, which has been intercepting a majority of higher launch rockets. Good. These are good things, because otherwise, the hundreds of rockets that have been fired back and forth may very well likely have turned the tables on, who's got the higher body count. That being said, because of the higher body count on the Palestinian side, as well as a media that leans very anti-Israel, more pro-Palestine, we are seeing our American media, basically, except for Fox News, casting Israel as the baddies.
Well, that was the thing about when Trump was in office. Even when he supported Israel, they were just dumped. They would dump on him and Israel because Israel. It also seemed like that whole, and this is where the accusation I mentioned to you also before the stream. If all you're doing is criticizing Israel, you're anti-Semitic. If you criticize Palestine, you're apparently Islamophobic. It's really such a tricky position to be in.
I think it's intentionally made that way. I don't think you're supposed to be able to navigate this in particular, because this is what happens when you create a culture of political correctness. You can't that specifically will call you out even if you do a non-racist behavior as a racist behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You create this instance where you are basically cast as a hypocrite simply because.
Yeah.
Now, I don't necessarily know what the fix to that is. I couldn't tell you, because, well, it's an ongoing issue. However, I lean very heavy Israel, and I will tell you exactly why. They didn't fire the first rocket.
No?
Well, no. The
Oh.
conflicts that were going on started with a protest that was happening at the tail end of Ramadan, and then when they started throwing rocks and shit at at the police, and the police responded with stun grenades, and then they go back to their side and begin firing rockets. Well, okay, you've chosen your path.
Oh dear.
That's not a politically correct position, and a lot of people don't like it.
That's true.
But
In the
yeah,
chat, someone mentions you get yelled at if you don't pick a side. That's actually what happened to Greta Thunberg, who tweeted out about both sides in the issue, and people were like on her.
mm-hmm.
Or anyone who
Well,
wanted
I mean,
a peaceful resolution. In the case of Gal Gadot, who, yes, she took her side of her country, but she wants a peaceful resolution. And people were like, no, cancel Wonder Woman. She's over. It's done. She fought for Israel. She's wrong. She's bad.
I mean, there's no. I don't think they gave you a position that you could even be neutral, because this is such a highly polarized thing, and it's also politically like convenient for people to use as a way to cast their political opponents as the moral other, basically saying that they are morally deficient in some way because they back the aggressors allegedly. So this isn't a shock to me in the slightest to hear that. This group of blue check marks on Twitter are saying that I'm a bad person because I choose to believe in the people who, upon their country's inception, fought off 5 fucking countries at once.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the 7 Days War. Remember that?
It was
7-year war. And 6-Day War. Arab-Israeli, yeah.
Didn't know that.
So, yes. So that's my thoughts on the whole thing, though. The issue ongoing with Israel and Palestine is not going to get better. Egypt had sent I guess you would call them like an envoy, or basically they sent some people to try and defuse the situation, and both Israel and Hamas said, nah, we're not going to stop firing. Because basically it's like, at this point, it's he hit me. Well, he hit me first.
Yeah.
So it's that level of petty, and it's not going anywhere anytime. So we're on the brink of full scale war, which is honestly more of a proxy war. I think it's going to end up being.
It's going to get messy.
7-hour war was against the Combine. Yeah, but there's also a 7-year war, and
It'd be very interesting to see.
we need to get better at fucking naming.
Didn't I swear I saw Biden throw support behind Israel, didn't he? I saw
No.
I did.
Biden tried to tell Israel to calm down, and Israel promptly told him to fuck right off.
I guess they're not a fan of him. They should have sent the Trump.
Yeah, basically. He basically was like, "Hey guys, maybe you want to calm down," and Israel promptly shot back, "Stay in your fucking lane."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think negotiations are going great from the Biden perspective. And honestly, a lot of Americans are saying the same thing. Biden, fuck off. Don't say a damn thing. It's not our problem. But alas, America doing what America do, getting involved in other people's shit. I mean, I get it. Israel is some people have called them our greatest ally, and I'm like, hey, Britain probably doesn't appreciate that. But whatever. There's not much I can fix of our country's opinions on that. But yeah, that's the thing. Like we've got one of our biggest allies is Israel. We kind of have to back them. And against Palestine, which is kind of an odd man. If you go into the history of this area, basically what it all boils down to is my God said this was our land. No, my God said this was our land. And I'm like, okay. You know you guys have the same fucking God, right? You dumbasses. Abrahamic religions have the same God, you fucks. But no, it's not. It's not getting any better. It's not changing anytime soon. So we're gonna see some ongoing tensions. We're gonna see some rocket. We're gonna see some more air. I'm hoping that things don't get too bad. But I'm at this point a realist, and I know it's not gonna end that way.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would even call it that at this point. Because at the same time, I really disapprove of the idea that Palestine can just, or rather, jihad groups can use civilian areas as a method in which they stage their attacks on Israel and then cry fucking foul when somebody shoots back at them, like a little brother in the backseat of a car saying he hit me after he just kicked his older brother in the face. Like, I'm sorry, but you did the thing. What did you expect? I don't understand where some of these people get their their high opinions of themselves against some of these major players on the world stage, and think that they can get away with going in on them and making a big stink by even firing rockets at them or making big hack attempts. And everyone's just gonna sit pretty and go, "Oh, look at them! They're so cute."
Chaos is right. It is a lot more complex than this, but we don't understand. We're boomers.
Well, it is a lot more complicated than this, but I'm not gonna get into the fact that the idea of Zionism, the people of Palestine who were technically there first after the conquest of the Ottomans. I'm not about to go into the history of the entire Middle East. Because at that point, then I have to get into some issues that aren't even recorded in actual history, but rather are relevant in their religious history, which only the scholars from their specific religions seem to have the quote-unquote right answer. It is a lot more complicated, but if I get into literally the more complexity, I have to extend this to another hour-long segment.
Yeah, no, we don't have another hour. No, sorry, guys. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, if you want me to, talk about the history of how Islam has been a religion of solely war since its inception until the last 100 years, yeah, sure, we can talk.
It's a shame that at the moment, Trups is too busy to make videos, because that would be quite the spicy one.
Oh my god, I would get a strike for that.
You probably would, actually.
The religion of peace has always been and always...
Don't say it. Don't finish that. I like my channel in good standing. I know what you're going to say as well.
Oh, what do you mean? I was only going to mention that they have a tendency to attack their aggressors. For example, I'm Spaniard. I would like to inform you that Spain was not always controlled by the Spanish.
He finished what he was going to say. I should have stopped.
Ironically, it wasn't the Jews who invaded most of Europe. I'll let you guess who it was. I'll give you a hint. It involves a moon and a star.
Okay, with that, we've hit our hour mark. Okay.
Yes, I'm going to try not to...
get me struck off this?
Meg on... Yeah, basically. I'm going to try not to get Meg's channel struck off YouTube.
Don't. This is connected to my main one. This is connected to my main channel. If I get struck, I'm gone. Okay?
No, all you have to do is transfer ownership to me.
I'm not doing that. I can't trust you. You can't be. No.
But hey, look, what do I have to lose versus what do you have to lose?
Say that when you have my channel in your possession.
What do you have to lose? Yeah,
I love
do you want me
everything.
to? You want me, you know, I'm on this channel. I basically have the the Omegon channel in the palm of my hand. Just the things that I could say, but I'm not going to do that because I care about you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yay. Ironically, the Muslims are not into that.
Say nothing else. Just end the show. I
Do you have
beg.
anything to shill?
I do not have anything to shill. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, for the donations, and for smashing the like. And if you don't, please consider following us on Spotify. It is linked down below. This will be on there hopefully some point this evening. So no, nothing to shill, I guess, beyond Spotify. Please follow us, Moist Ski Live.
People want it enough. I might, if things continue going on this, I'll make you a history of Islam in
I'm
Europe.
so excited at the prospect of reading that.
What are you talking about reading it? I'm gonna go off on a goddamn rant.
Oh no.
All right, but thank you guys all for joining us. Thank you for the super chats, the donations, always appreciated. Go follow us on Spotify. As long as this one ends up actually on there.
It will.
Thank you all of you guys for for joining us this evening. We'll have to work it out with Meg. I should be able to do a show next week.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm also going to be another 3 hours behind, so we'll see.
We should see.
But, thanks everyone. And say goodbye.